non-clarity from within the contract that you are signing and engaging in, right? And so there are three main elements that need to be a part of the contract. Price, the price that you're buying at, the asset that you're buying, and then the timing. I'll give you an example around this. I own a phone shop, and you come to me and you say, Brother Muhammad, I have $1,000, give me a phone. And I look at my store and I say, you know what? Here's this phone, $1,000. That contract or that agreement that transaction we just entered into, highly impermissible. Why? You said I want a phone for $1,000 and I gave you a phone. That's not enough. In Islam, if you say I have $1,000, that's my budget, I want a phone, I would say, you know what? We have this one option, which is an iPhone 17 Pro Max, 256 gigs, cosmic orange in color, brand new in the box, and I can deliver it today. That is a very clear transaction with clear pricing. You know exactly what you're buying and the time of delivery. And so we want to avoid as much ambiguity as possible, even within the contracts. There was a brother earlier today after the second khutbah, he says, on the car financing part, we don't do car financing, but he said, there's all these dealerships that they say, okay, we'll give it to you for 0%, and then what do is they take whatever the interest they would have earned, and then they would have capitalized it on top of the price of the car. So let's say the car is $50,000, and instead of paying $50,000 at 5% for 5 years, they say, okay, pay us $55,000, 0% for 5 years. Now, when you look at that at the surface, that could be looked at as a murabaha-based transaction, as long as they own the car and as long as they are, selling it to you directly and not saying, you're going to get financing from a bank, like a third party. Let's just say it's all in-house. And I said, brother, that's not enough, right? That's okay, yeah, you could look at the concept and say, yeah, that meets murabaha, I'm good. No, actually, because what does the contract say? What does the contract lay out in terms of terms and conditions? Does it lay out what happens on the risk side of things, right? So are you, if you default, if you miss a payment, what happens? Are they going to be nice to you, or are they going to say, no, khalas, repossession, and you don't get anything, and ma salama? Well, that might not be Sharia compliant. And so the problem here is we don't read the fine print to better understand what the terms and conditions are and how does that apply to the Sharia or not. And it's not just about the money part, right? It's all about the terms and conditions that are attached to that contract, because you're signing that contract. The same argument goes with like, oh, okay, I have a credit card. I'll show it to you. I have 2 credit cards in here. And alhamdulillah, I make my monthly payments, never paid interest. But what did I sign? I signed a contract that said, if you miss your payment, we're going to charge you 21.99%. Right? I signed that contract. So the fact that I signed that contract means I entered into an impermissible transaction, an impermissible contract. And so this is part of the infrastructure that is missing within our ummah here today in Canada so that we can avoid it. And the problem is, nobody will rent to me without a credit score. Nobody will even give me a phone line without a credit score. And what do I need to get a credit score? I have to open up some sort of, credit line. So, okay, let me open up a credit card. I'll minimally use it. I'll make sure I pay it off, and I'll build my credit score. Are there alternatives in the marketplace that allow me to do that without entering into a ribawi-based contract? I haven't seen any. So this is what we're trying to resolve here. And then, of course, there's the unjust enrichment part, right? And this goes back to, well, what happens if you default? I like to call this rule, this is the don't kick them while they're down rule, or don't add salt to the wound rule. You can miss a payment. That's absolutely fine. It's out of your control if you miss a payment because you lost your job. Nobody can guarantee that you're going to have a job forever. Okay, what happens? You can't make your monthly payment. With a regular bank, they're going to come after you. They're going to add more interest. They're going to add penalties. They're going to add fees. Maybe it goes to legal. Maybe it goes to, they're going to ruin your credit score. And then you keep doing that long enough, and then they're going to say, oh, we need to foreclose on this home, power of sale, we've taken it over. Like, they don't care about you, right? They care about the money that they're trying to get back. In a Sharia-compliant product, you lose your job and you can't afford to pay, everything stops. Like, basically, the contract is on pause. One defining element of a ribawi-based contract is, if I stop making a payment, are you still going to accumulate the interest? And that is the biggest difference between a ribawi-based contract and a non-ribawi-based contract. Because if your payments are $2,500 a month in a Sharia-compliant contract, then khalas. You made your last payment. We're on pause for month 1. We check in. Did you get your job? No. Okay, pause for month 2. Did you get your job? No. Pause for month 3. Did you get your job? Oh, yes, actually I did. Okay, great. Now, you missed 3 payments. We deferred them for you, happily. What do you do? How are we going to make that up? $2,500. That was the monthly payment. No added interest, no added penalties, no legal fees, nothing. 25 plus 25 plus 25. You have 2 options, or we have 2 options. You could say, you know what? I have the money, and I'm going to pay you back the $7,500, and I'm going to catch up on my payments. That's option number 1. And it doesn't have to be immediate. It could be over time. No problem. Option 2 is you say, you know what? My income is still the same or lower. I don't really have the ability to pay the $7,500. Can you defer it to the end of the contract? No problem. So if you take a mortgage for 5 years or 60 months and you miss 3 payments, then we'll say, okay, instead of making 60 payments in 60 months, you're going to make 60 payments in 63 months. It's still 60 payments, but it's over a different period of time because we had to put the whole transaction on pause so that we can make it easy for you. And we're not saying, oh, now we have to kick you out of the house. You're not paying us, so you can't live here. That's not how it works, right? Like there's a humanitarian element to this model. And so what you can't do is exploit somebody's weakness or even exploit their ignorance. Maybe I'm dumb and you're smart and you wanted to take advantage of me and I signed. Well, that's also unfair. You shouldn't be doing that. There should be no reason for you to extract an unfair advantage based on, a scenario, right, that is not perfect, like a not positive one. Everyone does a deal because they're happy and they think that there are going to be positive outcomes. But once something goes wrong, everyone starts to read the paperwork that they signed. And then they're going to get their lawyers involved and they're going to say, where do I stand in all of this? Okay? And so the financial transaction really is an exchange between equals. That's how we should be treated in this model. And then finally, haram purpose, right? So this is the business ethics of the whole Islamic finance model. We all know that we should be staying away from alcohol and pork, drugs, tobacco, entertainment, pornography, casinos, gambling. But there's a wisdom behind this. And the wisdom is, does this business harm an individual or society? Because if I told anybody, hey, we're going to build a city that doesn't have casinos, that doesn't have cigarettes to buy, or vapes, or drugs to buy, or alcohol, or pork, so on and so forth, defense, weapons, And I said, you can live in this city, or you can live in the city that has all this stuff. People will say, no, I'd rather live in this city because everybody knows, right? Like there's most likely lower crime, right? Less people are harming themselves. It's better for society. It's better for the community. And so just keeping that lens and saying, could this potentially harm somebody or harm a number of individuals? And if the answer is yes, don't invest in it and don't finance it. That's it. It's very simple. And if you don't know, then okay, of course, get some shura from your scholars, your advisors. But if it's clear cut, then go for it. Why not? It's going to benefit society. And so this is what we need to remind ourselves of. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 275, وَحَلَّلَ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Everybody knows this part of the ayah. But what we all forget is what is said before that. And this happens every single time I talk about this topic. They'll say, oh brother, you're just changing words. Trade and usury are the same. You're calling the borrower a client. You're calling the bank the financier. You're just changing the word from interest to profit. Don't try and fool us here. And yes, at the surface level, it could be looked at that. But if I told you that there are two steaks in front of me, and one of them was halal, and the other one wasn't, and they look exactly the same to you, would you be able to tell which one is halal and which one is not? Just by looking at them. You could guess, right? Like you could guess. There's a 1 in 2 chance. You could guess the right one. But you wouldn't be able to say this one is halal and this because it looks like this. No. There was something that happened in the background. There was a process. What was that process? Well, the animal was raised in a humane way. It was slaughtered in a humane way. Bismillah was recited on it. It was hanged and all the blood was drained. This is the process that we all agree to say, yes, this is because this cow or this lamb or this chicken went through that process, it's halal. And because this one didn't, it is non-halal. But the outcome is the same. It looks like chicken. It looks like beef. It looks like lamb. Another example. I give you 2 couples. Male, female, male, female. Just by looking at them, can you tell which one is married or not? Can you tell which one is in a halal relationship and which one is in a haram relationship? Okay. What's the difference? Well, okay, but what is the marriage? It's a process. It's documentation, right? So that's the difference between this couple and this couple. They went through a process that makes their union halal in front of the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the ummah, and these people did not. And Islamic finance is no different. Islamic finance, again, one mortgage payment is $2,500 a month, and this mortgage payment is $2,500 a month. This is a 5% mortgage, conventional interest. This is 5% mortgage, Sharia compliant profit. Different words, right? Oh, but brother, it's the same. You're just playing around. Okay, well then let me show you the documentation of the process here and the documentation and the process here. And this is the distinguishing factor in Islamic finance. Without the documentation and the process, then of course it might be the same. it will be deemed the same by the scholars. And so these right here are the elements that we need to look at when it comes to, well, what is really the difference between a profit-based arrangement and an interest-based arrangement? Yes, they look similar, but the difference is everything. And so in a profit-based mechanism, again, is it trade-based? Is there ownership? Is there real economic activity? Was there capital at risk by the investor? Is the return linked to actual performance and outcomes? Is the reward for taking on uncertainty and providing real value? And then, of course, is it permissible in general in terms of the ethics and the business model? Whereas in riba, if I lend you money, the return is based on the loan contract itself. You know the concept of an unsecured loan? Like a credit card is an unsecured loan. Why did they give it to you? Because they said, oh, your credit score is 700, and we think you have a strong ability to repay based on your history, based on your credit. It's not backed by anything. This is an unsecured loan. And so what they're saying is, yeah, we'll give you $10,000 and you have to give us 20% per year on that, guaranteed. But it's not tied to your income. It's not tied to your business in terms of the revenues or the profits that it's making. And this is where the lender's capital is contractually guaranteed. All the risk is on you. What's the risk that the investor, that the bank put? No, nothing. Because you're going to say, oh, the risk is the money they lent you. Well, they're also, if you can't pay, they're going to go after all of your other personal assets. So one way or another, they're going to get their money back, right? The return is fixed, so it's not variable. It doesn't move based on outcomes. And even if the venture doesn't succeed, they're still making their money. And then, of course, there's always charges, again, if anything is deferred, right? So defaults or a missed payment, all of this stuff starts to add up. And, the other element is it being invested in a, strictly prohibited business, right? So are you financing or investing a bank, an insurance company, a casino, a slaughterhouse for pigs? These are all things that we need to stay away from. Okay, let's quickly go over the three main concepts or transaction models in Islamic finance. The first one being musharaka, the second one being murabaha, and the last one being ijara. And these three models pretty much take up 95% of the Islamic banking world, right? You can get by with all three of these. I'm going to start with ijara because it's the easiest. We also don't use this transaction model because we don't want to be property owners or landlords. But really, this is where you just acquire the asset and then you lease it out, right? You have full own, like we, as the owner and the person that put the money to buy it, have full ownership. We would be responsible for property taxes, utilities, all of the maintenance of the house. Again, it's in our ownership, and we can rent it out, and there could be, an exchange of rent for the use of the property. The murabaha, I discussed previously in some examples where it's a trade-based transaction. And so under the context of a home, I would say that you would go out and you'd hire this guy, and you're like, Brother Rashid, I want to buy a house. And he's like, okay, let's go shopping. And then they're going to put an offer that the seller agrees to. Great. And you're going to have your financing pre-approved by Manzil. And so what's going to happen is that property actually gets assigned to Manzil for purchase. So we buy it. We close on it, like through the lawyers, like we sign documents, it's in our ownership. And then that same day, we basically sign a new contract between us that allows us to shift the asset to your ownership. And then you have a monthly payment that needs to be made needs to be paid over 25 years or 300 months. So think of it as like a fixed financing agreement for 25 years. Now, if your question is, does Manzil do this? We did do it. That's how we started our program. But right now, 99% of our clients use the Musharaka model because it's a lot more flexible and it allows for refinances and transfers, whereas the Murabaha doesn't because you can't transfer debt. It's called Bay' al-Ina. And the cost is much cheaper. And so in a partnership model, super simple. $1 million home, you have 50%, I have 50%. I put 500,000, you put 500,000. We both buy the house together. We give you title because we don't need to be on title from a Sharia perspective. And we say, okay, you're going to live in the house. You're going to have exclusive use of the property. It's yours at the end of the day. You want to renovate it? Go for it. You want to rent it out? Go for it. You want to do whatever you want with the property? No problem. And then we say, okay, well, let's calculate your monthly payments, and let's say it's $2,500 a month. So we say, okay, we are now 50-50, and what we're going to do is we're going to sell you our shares in the house as part of this payment that you're going to make every month. And when we sell it to you, right, ijabu qubul, so sell and then you accept, you give us the money, the shares are transferred, and now you're 51% and I'm 49%. And then the next month, you're 52 and I'm 48. And this is what we call a diminishing musharaka or musharaka mutanaqasa transaction model. And you'll continue to make payments for a maximum of 25 years, 300 months, until you reach 100%, we are at zero, and there's no partnership required. Khalas. Clean as a whistle. So these are the three concepts that we use in Islamic finance, and in particular, with Manzil, the Musharaka model is what we found has worked best within the Muslim community, the Canadian legal, regulatory frameworks that we have out here as well. And so, I already shared this as an example verbally, but again, if you want to look at, compare the Manzil Musharaka to the conventional mortgage, it's the same, right? Like it's $800,000 purchase price, 20% down payment, which is $160,000. We're doing this on a 25-year basis, but it's a 5-year term, meaning we've pre-agreed on the profit rate for up to 5 years based on our shares that I'm going to sell you. And so it's a co-ownership model where Manzil and yourself, we jointly purchase, and you buy us out over time. That's the mutanaqasa or the diminishing part. On the conventional side, it's just a loan agreement. You go to the bank and you say, hey guys, I bought this house. I'm putting $160,000. Oh, how much do you need? $640,000. And they say, okay, let's look at your credit score and your income and all that. Here's the money. So they're giving you money, and then they say, pay us back over time. They're not saying we're going to partner with the house on you. They're not saying we're going to sell you our shares to you or our equity to you over time. That's not what's happening, right? And so the bank's capital is guaranteed, whereas ours is not, right? And they are not participating in any sort of downside risk. In our model, we give away all the profit. Like if the house goes from 800,000 to 1 million, and you want to sell, you get the 200,000, profit. We don't need to from a Sharia perspective. But from a Sharia perspective, we have to share in the downside. Otherwise, that contract becomes impermissible. And so when we think about, well, where does these frameworks come from, right? There is an organization out of Bahrain, which is under the Central Bank of Bahrain, regulated by the Central Bank of Bahrain, which is AYOFI, is how it's pronounced, but it stands for the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. Every Islamic bank globally is an institutional member, and they adhere to their standards. And the beauty about these standards is it's basically from a school of thought perspective, a jumhur. So whether you're Hanafi, Hanbali, Maliki, Shafi'i, it doesn't matter. They've all agreed to these standards. Okay? And Manzil was Canada's first AOFI member, alhamdulillah. Right? We brought this standard to Canada. And again, right, you have to follow all of these, let's call it attributes, and you have to have additional governance pieces in place, which includes a Sharia supervisory board, external Sharia auditors, external Sharia advisors, internal Sharia auditors, and advisors. And so that's where, the difference between, a Sharia compliant organization would have versus one that isn't, right? It's fine and dandy that you have a fatwa, but what is the ongoing oversight, right? Like our Sharia board, every year when they audit us, they say, let us look at all the transactions. And we need to see that you've adhered to every single one that is and ensure that it's Sharia compliant. And we have to make sure that you didn't change any of the words from the original contract that you told us we approved, right? So this is the oversight. This is the governance that's required. Otherwise, anybody can put up their hand and say, yeah, I'm halal too. I'm Sharia compliant too. Trust me, brother, no problem. That's not how it works. And so we need to hold these organizations accountable. So that is the financing part of the organization. I'm going to shift very quickly over to the investment part of the presentation, because Manzil is not just a financing company, but we are also an investment company, right? So if you have TFSAs, RSPs, RESPs for your children, FHSAs because you're saving for a home somewhere else, if you didn't know, you can do it through us. You can actually open up an account, no different than what you can get at the bank, and you can deposit your funds and your money into this. You can even transfer your accounts over, and it'll be Sharia compliant from day one. We basically give you the peace of mind that you don't have to worry about whether it's halal or haram. You don't have to make those decisions. We've made those decisions on your behalf because we have the system in place to be able to do it. And so again, when you think about, well, what do I invest in? I always say there's two pieces. There's the qualitative data, and then there's the quantitative. What's the qualitative? We know it. Stay away from companies that are gambling and gaming, alcohol, tobacco, pork products, banking, insurance, weapons, derivatives, which are these, very technical, instruments, adult entertainment. And then you say, okay, now I have my universe of companies that are filtered out from this criteria on your left. Now you have these companies, and you have to dig further. You actually have to open up their books, their financial books, their balance sheets, and you have to actually evaluate whether they are within the permissible ranges. And so the biggest one is, well, what is their interest-bearing debt that they have on the books? Is it less than 30% market cap, or is it higher? If it's less, okay, good, you can keep it for now. What is the cash and interest assets that they have? Is it less than 30% of market cap? Okay, good. And then impermissible income. Is 5% or less of their revenue being derived from any of these things? And I'll give you a simple example. Hilton Hotels. It's a hotel company. It's a real estate company. They build hotels and they sell rooms, and that is a Sharia compliant transaction model. But do they have restaurants? Yes. Do they sell pork in the restaurants? Yes. Depending on where you are in the world, do they have bars that sell alcohol? Yes. You have to calculate how much of that revenue is being derived by pork and alcohol sales. And if it's less than 5%, and of course assuming no debt on the books, they buy the hotels in cash, there's no leverage, there's no interest being accumulated, then yeah, you can invest in that. But you will still have to purify 5% of those dividends as part of your investment holding. Now, try and do that for 10 stocks, 20 stocks, 100 stocks, and you have to do it every quarter. Every quarter, there's new financials that are publicly available. How are you going to go in and say, oh, I have 100 stocks here. I need to check one by one and do all of that. We do that work for you. That's the benefit and the service that we provide for you guys. And so I mentioned the income purification piece. And then, of course, there's also the wealth purification, which falls under zakah. And there's, that's, I could do a whole session just on zakah. Maybe Sheikh, bring me in during Ramadan, and we can do a whole Sheikh, because that's when everyone starts to think about zakah and how do you actually calculate zakah. Because it's not just 2.5% on everything that you own. It's actually a much more complicated calculation and discussion around that. So I mentioned to you guys FHSA, RSPs. These are just 3 of the 15, 20 accounts that are available to us, right? And we always get this question. They're like, oh, brother, is the RSP halal? And I'm like, well, what's haram about it? And then they're like, well, the RSP I got out of the bank, has a GIC. I said, well, okay, the GIC is haram, but the RSP account is not. It's just a tool. And it's a government tax tool that allows you to save tax every year on your income tax return. You can open up an RSP and put cash in it and still take advantage of the tax return. That is halal, no problem. But why would you stop there? Invest it in a Sharia-compliant way, in Sharia-compliant investment funds, and Sharia-compliant ETFs that allow the money to grow over time too. That is where the impermissibility or the permissibility comes into play. It's not in the account type. Think of the account as like an umbrella. What's under the umbrella is what can make it halal or haram. And again, Manzil takes care of that. My brother Muhammad takes care of that. And so an overview of what is available to you today through Manzil. And, if you're here visiting from the States, we're also available in the States. Alhamdulillah, you guys are living in Ontario because all of our products are available in Ontario. Alhamdulillah. And that means halal mortgages, halal investments, our Manzil mortgage fund that you can invest in, Manzil realty services, Manzil wealth services, our Manzil foundation if you guys want to be philanthropic and you want to do some directed giving. All of that is available as residents of Ontario, as PR or citizen of Canada. If you're in Quebec, it's a little bit more difficult, right? There's less programs, and we're building them out slowly but surely, and we expect to be Canada-wide across all products. If you're based out of the US, we have Manzil Invest, which is an online trading app. We actually connect the Sharia guidelines, and so it'll actually tell you this stock is compliant, this stock is non-compliant, and you can buy the stock that's compliant, and you cannot buy the stock that's non-compliant. Like, that's an awesome feature that nobody has, alhamdulillah, but it's only available to US investors. The Manzil ETF, I literally had 2 discussions today post-Jum'ah, and every person that came to me said, brother, I'm already investing in a Sharia-compliant ETF, but because of October 7th, these Sharia ETFs are not adhering to BDS or ethics mandates. I said, alhamdulillah, it's been solved for you. And they said, oh, well, how? I said, well, our ETF that we launched last year that's listed on the NASDAQ and can be bought through any platform includes a Sharia screener and an ethical screener. So we screen out any company that has any involvement in grave human rights concerns. And it's all done through a third party. You can look up the ticker, MNZL. It's right there. You can buy at any brokerage. If you're at TD, RBC, Interactive Brokers, IBKR, open it, do it. You can do it right now. Put it in overnight trade. Done. Solved. For those that don't know, I'm Palestinian. I would never do anything that would compromise my Palestinian brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank. And so I look at this as an amana on myself with the company that we've built, and it's we as a community collective, to ensure that the products we put out, none of it goes into the hands of companies that are going to support the Zionist regime. And as long as I am in control of this company, that will continually happen. And I will not allow for it. And alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate to be in this position to do so. There are lots of Muslim companies out there that say they love Palestine and they're happy to support, but when you ask them to do these things, they're not willing to rock the boat, as they say. Why? This is a matter of deen and dunya. Akhirah and dunya, sorry. Or deen and dunya. Why? If you have control, you're a Muslim owner, do it. Nobody's going to say no to you. You can only push them so far. So, don't want to get into too many details, but alhamdulillah, we have a lot of products and services available, and I want to open up the floor for questions. That includes not just myself, because I've been talking a lot and too much, but also for my brothers here on the real estate and the wealth side. Jazakumullahu khairan wa barakallahu fikum for your attention, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. Which one? This one? No, this is not. Oh, comparing this one? This is the two comparisons. Are you talking about this one or a different one? Oh, okay. So is this the slide you want, or you want me to be on the last slide? Where do you want me? We have like the presentation is not on our website, but we have a lot of resources on our website that talk about all of our products, our services. We have a ton of blog posts. We have a help center. Everything is explained. Like, we literally spoon feed you digitally. And if you're willing to take time and just navigate through the website, it's all there. We are a fully digital business, right? We don't have branches. That's why we're available across the country without, the need for brick and mortar and like a big spend. We want to keep things professional. We want to keep things at a reduced cost, because the higher our cost, then we have to pass them on to you at the end of the day. So yeah, we are fully licensed as a Manzil, as a mortgage brokerage across the country, alhamdulillah. So we are under the auspices of OSC, the Ontario Securities Commission. We are now registering our application for some additional activities, which requires a license. But right now, everything that we're doing is above board, licensed, regulated, alhamdulillah. In the US, we're fully RIA licensed across 50 states. And additional licenses for the ETF mandates that we have. So listen guys, financial services, you cannot do anything without a regulator or a license in place. And Canada is the second hardest jurisdiction globally to set up anything financial services. The hardest country in the world is China. Imagine I told somebody, China, then Canada, if you want to open up any sort of financial services firm. And so this is the barakah that we've benefited from with respect to just, being able to set ourselves up in a way for several years, licensed, regulated, tons of legal work involved, tons of compliance involved. But alhamdulillah, we've been operating in market for 7 years now, and the barakah only comes through the community and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, so we have a demand-supply imbalance, meaning there's more people coming to us than the amount of capital that we can deploy. We get about $100 million a month in requests. I don't have $100 million a month to deploy. So when brokerages or third parties come to us and say, hey, I have a client, I tell them I have 1,000 clients. Like, no offense, like your client can come to us, but we don't need to pay or do a referral fee to get that client, right? Until the tables turn where we have so much money, right? And we start to say, yeah, like, you have access to clients, you have access to community, we're willing to pay you to go bring us deals because we can't send the money out the door fast enough. But we have the exact opposite, which is a good problem to have, but totally understanding where you're coming from. Yes, brother. Yes. Continue to not come in? To not pay? Yeah. We've gone beyond 3 months. Like we've had a real example of 6 months, 8 months, 8 months. So like we're willing to go beyond, but there has to be, listen, there has to be communication, right? If you all of a sudden don't pay and you run off and we're calling you and we're emailing you and you're not responding, what do you want us to do? Right? But if you come to the table and say, hey, guys, this is my situation, what are we going to do about it? We'll say, nothing for now. Keep us posted, right? Let us know how the job search is going. And then what will happen is maybe at month 9, he might say, you know what? It doesn't look like anything's coming my way. Let's do something. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Let's sell the house, and whatever profit is there, it's all yours. We get paid back the financing amount, and that's it. We don't need to foreclose. We don't need to power of sale. But this is where the mawadda and the rahma come into play, right? And that's the humanity piece of the transaction, is to say we're willing to work with you. We're not your enemy here, but communicate with us. Let us know, right, what's going on. But yeah, if you're gonna run away and we get Rashid to knock on your door and nobody's home and like furniture's gone, then yeah, it might be a for sale, but we're not gonna take your money. We're still gonna call you and be like, hey, there's like a check waiting for you. Where do you want us to send it? And then that's still your money. We're not entitled to that money. We're not taking that money. Yes, brother. Which financial doc? For all of our funds, yes, that is all public disclosure, but we do not publicly disclose our company financials because we're a private company. Yeah. Yep. What are you looking for? What exactly are you looking for? What are the financial documents you're looking for? Is it the company financial documents? Like you want to know how much money we make and how much we spend? Yeah, we're a private company. We don't disclose that. We don't need to. We're not a public company. So what kind, are you buying company shares? Because we're not selling company shares. If you're buying our funds, those have audited financials as per regulations and licensing requirements. Those are all publicly available. That's how you can invest. But we are not selling company shares. We're not listed on like the Toronto Stock Exchange where you can buy and sell shares. Yeah, you can open up an investment account, no different than you have somewhere else at the bank, and you will invest in Sharia compliant companies. Not our company, other companies that are publicly listed, that have public financials. That's what's in it for you. Like if you invested in the Manzil mortgage fund, which is our low risk fund, our annual return net after management expense ratio is 5.5%. This is old, but year to date, if you can look at, I'll even show it to you guys here. Here's Manzil, because you guys can see. So what's our so this is our public ETF. So since January 1st, 17%. So that's all available. That's all public information. If you want to go to our Manzil ETF site, I'll show it to you here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right? So this is a public-facing website. It's SEC registered. It gives you all the data that you need, right? And then here's all the financials, right? The summary, the SAI, the Sharia certificates, semi-annual financials, all of this is available for you. We even disclose all of our holdings, right? So you can download all of the stocks in an Excel or CSV file. It's all there available for you because of the transparency that's required as part of being a Sharia compliant business entity. Yes. Oh, there's like 3 questions now. Okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Well, are you doing tax returns? Okay. And so you're basically saying that your job is not a salaried T4. Yeah, so we do both T4 and business owners like Uber, as long as you're filing your tax returns. And if you have the down payment, we will tell you how much financing you can get from us based on the income that you disclose to CRA. Okay? Yeah, okay, you, then you, then you. Yalla. Yeah. Yes, the intention is to go back. The issue was for Quebec, there was a limited interest from investors, right? And so because all of our capital comes from investors, we basically deploy the capital based on where they think they want to deploy it on market. So what we're actively doing is attracting more and more investors that would be willing to invest in Quebec. And so then we can open up Quebec, inshallah, for mortgages. 20% down payment, yes. Yeah, yeah. There's no way around it currently other than CMHC, the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, who we are been actively in discussions with alongside the Department of Finance and the Ministry of Finance to basically say, create a securitization pool type for halal mortgages to allow for a lower down payment. But this is a government issue. It's not an us issue. So you guys need to speak to your MPs, MPPs, your government officials, and lobby them and say, we need a lower down payment mechanism, and that has to be done through CMHC. That is out of our hands. And know what? Longer term, more than 25 years? So CMHC allows you to do 30, but we wouldn't, not yet. Not yet for us. Who was number 2? You, right? You're good? I answered it? Alhamdulillah. Okay, you're number 3. No questions for these guys? This is just the muscle right here. We transfer mortgages all the time. We can halalify your mortgage today. No problem. We love transfers. You live in Ontario? Huh? Perfect. Great. Well, we have lots of mortgages in Stittsville. Yeah, it's a good community out there. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Somebody out here? Yeah. Ali Sotak? Say that again. No, it won't be the same monthly payment. So let's discuss this point. Why is a halal mortgage more expensive than a conventional mortgage? Anyone know why? Just tell me. Like, what do you guys think? I want to hear your comments. Okay, risk sharing. That's a good one. What else? Yeah. Huh? I have to make profit. Yeah, that's right. Like this masjid is not for profit, right, Sheikh? It's not, it's free. But we are not a not-for-profit. If you want to donate to the Manzil Foundation, it's charitable status, it's not for profit, no problem. But this is an Islamic financial services firm. Okay, those are good points, but it's not the real answer. These are things that, yes, it's part of the reason, but what else? Yes. Okay, that's a good one. Economies of scale. Yeah, okay. Absolutely, yeah. So I give the example of like, look at the halal meat industry. 40 years ago, one butcher, lots of people want it, not enough cows that were slaughtered in a halal way. So anyone study economics 101, what happens when you have a supply demand imbalance? If supply is low and demand is high, prices are high. If supply is high and demand is low, prices are low. Okay, so economies of scale. We have lots of demand and very little supply of capital, so prices are high. But there's also another reason. No. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's a fair argument. Bingo. Takbir. 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 Wallah, it's the first guy in like 7 years that answered the question properly. But I'm going to explain it. But go ahead. Give him the microphone. Or one. Okay. Now we're going to put him on the hot seat.
Also, for that,
Closer.
an investor, for example, if I invest money for a mortgage, I want some return.
Yes.
Like exactly. How is that trade not riba?
Yeah. Okay. So let me answer the original question, which is why is a Sharia compliant mortgage more expensive than a conventional mortgage? Who here has a bank account? Everybody does, right? Okay. You have a checkings account and a 0% savings account, maybe? Okay. Your money just sits there until you use it, like your debits and credits through the debit card. But what happens with the money in actuality? That money behind the scenes is being used to fund or finance mortgages, cars, commercial properties, student loans. So how much do they owe you? Zero, right? You're getting 0% on your checkings account and you're getting 0% on your savings account. Sahih? So basically what you've done is given the bank an interest-free loan at 0 for the services of providing you banking. And they're saying, here, Habibi, take a 4% mortgage. Now, does the bank make money? 4 minus 0 is 4. It's pretty much a pretty profitable business. So my question to you is would you give me your money for free? Most people will say no. Nobody's giving anybody money for free. So where do I get my money from? I'm not a bank. I'm not a deposit-taking institution. I don't have checkings accounts to offer you. I don't have savings accounts to offer you. So what happens is I need investors. An investor is going to say, well, I can put my money here. Let's say they're non-Muslim. I can get a GIC for 4%. And it's safe and it's secure and they're going to give me my 4%. Well, if I'm going to give you money, what are you going to do better for me? I said, well, maybe I'll give you 5% in a Sharia compliant way. And they say, okay, fine. I will move my money from the GIC to you. So now I have to pay this guy 5%. Can I take his money at 5% and give you a 5% mortgage? Do I make money in that transaction? No. And my cost is higher. The bank is still doing it at 4. The bank could do it at 3 and still make money. The bank could do it at 2 and still make money. I have a minimum cost of 5%. So then I have to go to you and say, can I give it to you for 6, 6.5, maybe 7, depending on kind of the market? And you say, okay, yallah khair inshallah, no problem. And that's how we do business. So my job is to find, 1, economies of scale, 2, to bring in more investors that are willing to give me a cheaper rate of return. Or you can just give me your money for 0%. You've already given it away for 0, so give it to me instead. I don't even want it. I'm giving you 5.5. You can't get that anywhere else. Nowhere in Canada is there a Sharia compliant income yielding product? This is the only one. It's only available through us, and you're getting 5.5% on average on a net basis. And your capital is protected because it's asset backed, it's through homes. Find me something better. This is the opportunity that we have. The more that goes into this fund, the more I can deploy, the higher the economies of scale, the more diversification I have within my investor base, I can start to lower the profit rates because everyone will accept it. Or I turn into a bank, and then inshallah one day I'll have checkings and savings accounts, and hopefully you'll give me your money for free. Yes, brother. So right now, our 5-year musharaka profit rate is about 6%. You can do a 2-year rate for like 5.9. So it's not that much more, but it is more, in absolute values. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, let's go with you and then you. Go ahead, brother. Absolutely. They are all invested through the Manzil Mortgage Fund. This has nothing to do with the markets. It's non-correlated asset. Sorry? Well, my company is removed from the fund, right? So from a governance perspective, there's the company, which they haven't invested in. They've invested in the mortgage fund, which we are fund managers for. So if they don't like the way we manage the fund, we can be removed and be replaced by somebody else. But right now, alhamdulillah, everybody's loving the way we manage the fund. And we're doing a really good job at it. Jazakallahu khairan, brother. Really appreciate your du'as. Nope. So every month it's variable based on the profits that come in, right? So you're not investing in one mortgage at 7%. You're in a pool of mortgages. Some are 7, some are 6.9, some are 6.8, and there's cash coming in at the same time. There's drag on cash. So like if you average it out, it's 5.5%, but it's not 5.5 divided by 12, and it's that exact number on a monthly basis, which we can't do because that would be a guarantee, right? Correct. And that's the only way. Okay. I want Brother Rashid to maybe introduce himself. Take as much time as you need, bro. And then I want to do Muhammad Fayez. I felt like I've talked too much. I want to hear their beautiful voices. Yeah, I'm going to drink some water. Okay. Oh, you want the cordless? Yeah. Yallah, barakallahu fikum. Jazakallahu khairan.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So first of all, I want to thank Sheikh Suleiman for allowing us to come and present to the community once again to bring the awareness of Manzil. By show of hands, how many of you own a house already?
We have to change that.
So how many of you don't own a house, or you're living like with your parents? It's the bulk of you. So I think the question you're asking yourselves is, why can't I buy a house in Canada? Well, it's because of riba, right? So we all know that this is not permissible for us, and we all do our best to avoid engaging in sins that are, against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wills. So I come here presenting with Dr. Sawaf for a reason. It's not only to talk about I'm a realtor, so I make money by buying and selling houses. But I also believe in the cause. I have 3 daughters, alhamdulillah. I think what Manzil is trying to do by taking this starting point, just like our parents started with halal food 20 years ago, and now today we're reaping the benefits, I think that's what Manzil is doing. And as a result of it, Manzil needs all of our effort. So I don't want it to be perceived as we're convincing you to come join with Manzil, invest in Manzil, whatever. No, you're laying the building blocks of the foundation for future banking in Canada in an Islamic way so that it adheres to our personal values. So I'm the regional lead for the real estate team. I handle everything east of Kingston, and even Dr. Sawaf will admit, alhamdulillah, Ottawa is the #1 market for Manzil across the country. Takbir. Takbir. So, and that's part and parcel because of you, the community. You believe in this. The other thing I want to say is, when we look at the community that wants to engage in home purchases or investing in real estate in a halal manner, I'm happy to admit probably 90% of my deals are for brothers and sisters that are under the age of 40. And they're all young professionals, mashallah. I think it's a very commendable thing, because when I was buying a house, I'm over 40, I'm an old man now. So when I was trying to buy my house, I didn't explore this avenue. Well, I mean, truth be told, it wasn't available. But now, you youngsters are the ones that are advocating and saying like, hey man, the only way I'm buying a house is through an Islamic mortgage, one that's compliant, one that's halal, one that aligns with my values. And I think that's tremendously commendable. So all it is to say is, if you're considering looking into purchasing a home or selling a home, yes, I'm a realtor, but I also work with Manzil. And like I always tell him, I'm like the doorway to Manzil up here. Because, yeah, I'm the realtor guy, but everybody knows me as the Manzil guy. So if you ever want to explore investing, I'll point you to my brother over here, Fayez. I said your name right? Yeah, I keep calling him Fayez. I don't know why. Anyways, if you want to do investments, you'll go through this brother. If you want to plan strategically and you want to think like, okay, I can't buy a house today because I need the 20% down, but I want to do it in 5 years, talk to Fayez, and he'll actually set you up on a first-time home buyer account. He'll help you set up an RRSP. He'll help you to plan so that strategically you're invested in a halal way, working towards your ultimate goal, inshallah, to buy a property. The other thing is, like Dr. Sawaf was saying, we love mortgage transfers. So now you've been told there's a halal mortgage out there. And I hate to be the guy, but on the day of judgment, you can't stand in front of Allah and say, it was 2% cheaper. That's why I didn't do it. There's no answer, man. So don't let this be a burden for you. But anyways, that's my time. Jazakallah khair for your time. And I'll see you all from time to time. I go around to all the masjids. But yeah, take my contact info and inshallah we'll work together soon. Assalamu alaikum. Hello?
Use this one. Because the sister
I was trying to get rid of the cord.
the sister said they couldn't hear the question, only the answer.
So since you have a limited supply, how do you what are you looking at when someone comes to you guys to see if you guys can help them with buying a house? Like, how do you accept or reject a potential client?
So, is it on? Yeah, okay. So, alhamdulillah, as Dr. Swaf already said, we have a huge client base of folks trying to purchase homes. Like literally right now, I have one list of 697 people, another one of 187 people, another one of 183 people, and that's like over that's like 1,300 people almost. That's why I hired this brother over here to work with me, because I'm going to get him to pick up the phones from his house and just be like those like call centers, and he's going to call everybody. But no, I'm joking. But inshallah, really how it comes down to is your readiness. So I'll tell you, the reactionary time from Manzil is tremendous. And what I mean by that is last year, for example, I had one brother. He came to me and literally the house beside him was going up for sale. There was a sign, legally we can only put up a sign 3 days before it goes live. So there was a coming soon sign. And he calls Manzil, says, the house going up for sale beside my parents, I want that house. So then they called me, so then I got the ball rolling. Meanwhile, Manzil team, our mortgage team, they got the process going to get the pre-approval done. Wallahi, on the day one, I got him that house, man. So alhamdulillah, he was so happy. And so for us, we're as fast as you can be. If you want to sprint, let's sprint. If you want to stroll to the park, I got people sprinting, waiting. So like, it's up to you. But alhamdulillah, last year we did 68 deals in Ottawa. So, and if you ask Dr. Sawaf, I think we've only done, what, 350 across the country?
Yeah.
So 350, last year we did 68. Year before that, we did 48. Year before that, I think we did like 25. So I'm just saying, that's why Ottawa's number one. So yeah, brother, take my contact. If you want to get going, reach out and we'll discuss and put together a strategy. And if you have it FHSA, talk to this brother here and port it over. Make it halal, man.
Thank you.
Bismillah, salatu wassalam, Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair, brothers and sisters, for attending. So my name is Mohammed Faiz. I am from Montreal, but I serve across Canada. I'm a wealth specialist for Manzil Wealth, alhamdulillah. And I think our brother earlier mentioned, he said 20% down payment is a lot. What if we don't have that at the moment? That's when often I come into play as well. There are multiple ways to save up money. You don't need to start big, you can start small. We have different programs in Canada that allow us RSPs, FHSAs, TFSAs that allow you to save money. And then obviously we come into play to invest that money, right? So there are multiple investment strategies depending on your risk appetite, depending on your goals, your returns that you're looking forward to. And then obviously the Manzil Mortgage Fund is a beautiful one, but then we have also other, like our Manzil ETF and other products that we use to invest. All of those in different type of accounts, right? If you're a student, you're just starting, naturally you might, if you're just starting to work, you might not have a space in your RSP, or you might not even have enough money to invest. You can start slowly in a TFSA and then we move forward with that. Depending on what you do, maybe you've been working for 20, 30 years, you have a pension plan, or you have money saved up that you haven't invested, it's sitting in a cash account. Sometimes you don't want to put it into the markets, as the brother mentioned. He said, what if the markets crash? Well, alhamdulillah, we have a product for that as well that protects you from those type of downturns. Some people have incorporations, businesses, pharmacists, dentists, doctors who are incorporated and they don't work like a normal salary, right? And they don't want that money to be risked as well. We have programs for that as well. So when it comes to investments, alhamdulillah, really across the board, if you look at any other institution or us at Manzil, we have the same account types, right? So if you want a TFSA, you can have it the halal way at Manzil or with any other institution where technically it's not halal, right? So that's pretty much what we do at Manzil, alhamdulillah. And honestly, every case is different. So what I do usually is, if anybody has questions or they just want to look at their financial planning or just basic financial advice, alhamdulillah, it's free of cost. I look it up with them, we look at their statements. If what we have to offer them makes sense, bismillah, we transfer it over, and then we start the financial journey together, inshallah. And obviously, the goal, as we've mentioned multiple times with Dr. Sawaf and Brother Rashid, is that if you want to buy a property, inshallah, which is the best piece of investment you can have for security, for family, and all the other purposes, and you don't have the funds, well, you create it to go there, right? So that's pretty much what we do, alhamdulillah.
I just wanted to ask, do you, at Manzil, do you have ways to help like students to fund for their studies? Yeah, like to fund for their studies.
The brother asked about, for a sister that couldn't hear the answer, the brother asked about student loans. We do not offer student loans.
Question regarding investing in Manzil, the mortgage fund. Just maybe for clarification.
Just a bit closer.
For clarification, for somebody who wants to invest in that fund, like let's say I invest in it and then you take it and invest in mortgages. How is my investment with a return different from like a regular loan from the bank? For example, what I mean is that I lend you money, I lend money to Manzil, and I'm getting a return, like let's say 3%. Is in that interest?
We can't hear you. Just a bit closer.
Okay. So my question is regarding the mortgage fund. as an investor. Let's say I invest, I don't know, 100,000, and I get a return of, I don't know, 3%. How is that trade, not riba? Like the question that you asked. How is that a trade, not riba?
Okay, Jazakallah. So the brother's question is around if I'm investing in the mortgage fund and it's returning, 4 or 5%, how is that a trade, versus interest, or profit versus interest? So when you're investing, right, this is actually via a wakala bil istithmar agreement. Okay, wakala means investment agency agreement. So what you're saying is, I'm willing to give you money, so you're giving me money. We're the agent, right? And we are investing it on your behalf into this fund. And what your investment, where does your investment go? It's into the musharakas of all the properties that we have across the country. And so each of those musharakas is a partnership-based agreement, or that generates profit. And so what happens is that money that sits in cash gets deployed into a halal mortgage, and when the mortgagee makes the payment every month, the payment goes back into the fund, and then what happens is the principal is returned back into the fund, and then there's a profit that is distributed to all the investors. And so what you're doing is you're investing in the participation of the profits of all of the musharaka agreements across the country in that fund. It's not a fixed return, and it is not interest-based, right? You're not giving us money and we're giving you more money back. You're buying actual shares or units in the fund that invest in all of these musharaka partnership agreements.
Is the return on like a monthly basis?
Is
The return on the investment, do you distribute that on a monthly basis?
on a monthly basis, yes. The distributions are distributed monthly, yes.
It could be reinvested back again? Into
Yeah, yeah, you can reinvest it into shares. Like, it's called a dividend reinvestment plan.
Okay. And is there a minimum to start the investment?
$100.
Okay.
Over here? Okay, there's also. We'll get to you, brother, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. If I'm buying a house which is $1 million and the first installments are how much money I should have to acquire your loan support?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the brother's asking, if I want to buy $1 million home, what should be my qualification of income to be able to afford, right, the mortgage? So are we assuming $1 million purchase price and then 20% down payment of $200,000, so $800,000 mortgage?
That's right.
Okay. So generally what we tell people, our rule of thumb, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is about 3.5 times income? 3.4. Okay. 3.5 times income. So for every $100,000 of household income gross between you and your spouse, if there is one, you can get $340,000 from Manzil. So if you want 800,000, you probably need around $220,000 income, $235,000 income to be exact, according to his calculator.
But don't you think this, for a first-time house buyer,
Yeah.
to have more than $200,000, is it easy?
No, it's not easy. And that's why we are continually building our program to make the criteria easier, to allow more and more Muslims to participate. So just as Brother Rashid said, the people that support the products and services that are in the market today, everyone that comes after that need to thank the people before them. Because those are the people that were willing to take the risk. Those are the people that are willing to pay the higher price, right? And so, yeah, like today, there are 2 million Muslims, which is about 700,000 households. I would need about $280 billion to give every Muslim a $400,000 mortgage. That's going to take a long time, right? And so what happens is, in the early days, you're going to get the clients that have the down payment, that have the high incomes first, And then over time, as the program expands and becomes more flexible, more people get added to the criteria because now the program has been de-risked and there's economies of scale in place. It's just going to take time, that's all. Okay,
Thank you.
Jazakallah. Brother, if you can pass the mic over. Is that me? No. That's me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. wa rahmatullah.
I just have a question about if someone wants to like open a TFSA account with you guys to start investing in Sharia compliant companies, because I think it can become trickier to track the compliance status of companies through time. So do you do that as well for
The rebalancing, is that what you're talking about?
I mean the compliance of companies?
Yeah,
For-
so everything that we provide you, maybe you can answer.
Yes. So the rebalancing of the company, so you do not need to screen, we do the screening, right? So if there is a company that, let's say
Yeah.
for instance, we realize that a company that we have in our ETF decides to change their stance, right? Do something
Exactly.
haram, obviously it's rebalanced, right?
Yeah.
And there are diligences that done, so usually you learn it whenever they do a statement. So let's say if they did it on a specific date, we will know it at the statement date, and then we do the change. Obviously, we have it's taken care of. You do not need to do that, basically. Unless, once again, as Dr. Sawaf said, on the US side, there is a stock trading app which already has a screener. Then on that end, you would see on the spot if it is halal or not, which is different then. Right.
Okay.
I hope it
And
answers
also
the
for
question.
the purification of those, gains that you make, you also do the calculations as well, because it's also trickier, if a company changes its status, it's,
Yeah,
it's a
we
bit
provide the information of how much you need to purify, right? And then on that end, it's up to you to purify the amount. And then
Okay.
obviously, I think there's enough causes that you can participate in. If you really don't have enough causes, we do have the Manzil Foundation that you can participate in. But I think, alhamdulillah, the causes exist.
Okay, thank you.
Just 1 second. I just want to jump back to Uncle's question there about the qualification. So with Manzil, one of the unique features about it is, like, sure, in the example that you provided, $1 million house, $800,000 mortgage with a 20% down. You needed a $235,000 mortgage, annual income in the household. One of the unique features about Manzil is they offer this situation where you can add a guarantor, which does not go on title, which is unique, and the guarantor could be an immediate family member. That would be a mother, brother, father, sister, son, daughter, grandchild, whatever. So you can add these people on the application to help build up the qualification so that this way it becomes approved. Now the important thing is you got to be able to make sure by adding all these people you can afford the property, but like there's a workaround that Manzil does to try to help put people into these homes that they require. Then obviously the other option is you can add a co-signer. Co-signer can be anybody as long as they're a Canadian citizen. And then also on that note, when it comes to the qualification process for the mortgage, it is based off of your Canadian-based income. It's a very important feature I have to highlight to people because a lot of our brothers and sisters are involved in businesses abroad, and then their incomes are from abroad. As a result, it affects their qualification. The other important note is if you're self-employed in a corporation, I know we all like to try to reduce our annual tax contribution, so that will also affect you, but Manzil has a way to remedy that in the qualification process. So I just wanted to touch on those so that people aren't discouraged. Go ahead, Uncle.
In that case, can I sponsor or support their guarantee to my son?
He's your son.
Yes, my son. Yes.
100%. As long as we have to have you'll be put on as a guarantor.
Yeah.
Now there will be some things that we have to finesse, figure out in the process, but absolutely we should have a conversation. And the other important note I forgot to mention to everybody is one of the main reasons why Dr. Sawaf and Manzil established the Manzil Realty Group was because we have to be the realtors in representing in the purchase to help our clients, because Manzil being a partner and because there are some certain key points that we have to insert into the agreements of purchase, and other realtors don't have access to those details or don't know of those details. So it's just an important point to know.
Would you be charging extra because of the sponsorship?
Do we charge extra? No, but we accept tips. Like if you want to give me
No,
a
thank you.
10% tip of $1 million house.
My children deserve the gift first.
Yeah, so it's actually, so outside ETFs and stocks, what investment options are available to us?
Well, within Manzil, we have the Manzil Mortgage Fund, right? Which is outside of ETFs and stocks. Obviously, we have gold and silver that are available. And then after that, we have Sukuk that's also available. But besides that, obviously, so the ETFs that we have do not just cover the same companies, right? The goal is diversification. So we have an ETF that covers international stocks, halal ones obviously screened, and then we have one that covers the big caps in the United States, and then we have our Manzil fund that's also the one that's screened for BDS and mid caps and larger caps. So it's pretty much diversified. But besides that, the other options that would be available, technically, if you think about it, if you go into derivatives and futures and contracts, they're technically not halal, right? So, yeah, I hope that answers your questions.
In Ottawa? Right here, inshallah. I just want to say Jazakumullahu khairan to everybody being here, for your time, for your questions, for your attentiveness, for your patience. We really appreciate it. We love Ottawa so much. I think this is the most, like the city I visit the most often. Alhamdulillah. I'm here all the time, even on other efforts, but we have our local team here, and please engage with them, you know, for at the very minimum, just to learn more and educate yourselves on the benefits of Islamic finance and having a halal financial lifestyle. So Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum, Manzil group, and all the brothers and sisters who are here. If you have any questions, the brothers are here with us, inshallah ta'ala. And they are in town tomorrow and after tomorrow. So the brothers will be having a presentation tomorrow after Dhuhr in Masjid al-Rahmah on Hunt Club. And tomorrow after Asr in al-Bukhari Center on San Laurent. And Sunday after Dhuhr, Masjid Bilal in Orleans. So the brothers will be here tonight with us. Tomorrow, Salat al-Dhuhr, Masjid al-Rahmah. Tomorrow, Salat al-Asr, Bukhari Center. After tomorrow, Sunday, Dhuhr time at Bilal Masjid in Orleans, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our community. Ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen.
Okay. I'll give. Oh, okay.
For the sisters, if you have questions, so the brothers are here, inshallah. They will come to you, inshallah.